Greetings, greetings, and welcome to Conversation with Tony Mobley. It's been a long time. On Conversations with Tony Mobley today, I am talking with Mr. Andy Carluccio. This is episode 1 of 2024, and my producer says it's season 2. Conversations with Tony Mobley is back. This is our first episode in 2024. And we are happy to have Mr. Andy Carluccio as our first guest for us, new year. Thanks to everyone for being a part of this new journey powered by Mimo Live. We also want to thank everyone who was a part of the old infrastructure. I want to thank the team behind Conversation with Tony and Mobley for all of their hard work. And you can see this conversation on YouTube, our channel on YouTube, and also on our website, which is conversationwithtonymobley.com. We have a interactive chat, and it's called Mukana, and it's courtesy of Alex Lindsay of 090. For Mukana, which is our chat, you can write your question in. It can be voted up and down. And again, you can go to our website, conversationwithtonymobley.com. And now we are here, and it is time for our very first question. And our very first question is, welcome back, Mr. Andy Carluccio. And we want to know what is new since you were last CEO of Liminal.
Oh my goodness, Tony! What hasn't changed, and what things are the same, and of course, so many new things since we last sat down together. It's been too long. I'm really grateful, first of all, that you've had me back. I'm so excited to see Conversations with Tony Mobley pick back up and to hear that you're doing well. That's really exciting. So congratulations, and it's great to see you again. So last time we got together, I believe it was August or September of 2021, and a lot has changed since then. So as you know, I joined the Zoom team after Zoom and Liminal joined forces at the end of 2021, and I've been working at Zoom since then on remote contribution, broadcast, development, all sorts of different things over on our engineering team. And I'm doing it with a lot of the same people that I worked with during the Liminal days. So it's really exciting, and it's in terms of things that are the same. We're working on the same kind of problems. We're still have the liminal apps, Zoom ISO, Zoom OSC. We've introduced new products into that family, and we've expanded what those apps can do. And we're working with more people now. So it's really been exciting for me to kind of continue that journey of solving those types of problems of how do we make remote contribution, broadcast, hybrid events, virtual technologies effective for customers around the world. But to be able to do so with the Zoom team has been really exciting for me. I've also moved. So I think last time we were together, I was calling in from Virginia, and now I'm here in sunny San Francisco, and having a great time out here in the Bay Area. And it's been great for me to be able to spend time with a lot of my colleagues at Zoom who work down in San Jose, but also to be able to, enjoy a new chapter in my life. So it's been really exciting. There's been a lot of change, but like I said, a lot of things have stayed the same. So there's a lot of the same smiling faces like yours, Tony, that keep me going. So it's really great to be back.
Again, we're very happy to have you today. Our next question is, are there some Zoom products that you would recommend for educators?
Yeah, so I mean, Zoom is such a diverse platform in terms of the types of people who use it, and that's like we said, it tries to be one platform for limitless human connection, right? That's our motto, and I think there's nowhere where that's more clear maybe than education. And I think as we all saw during the past several years, how important that was to keeping students and their teachers connected, and it continues to be the case as we move forward. There are so many different things, starting just with simple meetings, right? Getting people together and having that conversation. And I think that there's a lot of technologies in the product that really do think about educators first. I think breakout rooms is a great example of that, being able to have, those side conversations or paired sharing and work like that, and then bring everybody back together, jump in and do that personal assistance. But there's so much more, I think, in education than even than the classroom. And while our whiteboard technology is really interesting, where that becomes something that we have during the meeting, but then is available to us after the fact, right, as an artifact that we can study and learn from. I think whiteboarding has been really, really interesting to see how much that has come such a long way since the last time we got together in terms of what you can do with whiteboarding in the industry. So that's been really exciting. And I think also internal educational webinars come a long way as well. So a lot of cool things you can do with Q&A and managing all of that has been really exciting to see.
Okay. Our next question is, can you give an overview of your professional work?
Oh dear. So yeah, so I started off in kind of the theater world, really in the live entertainment side of the industry. So I did work as a kind of a freelance projection designer. So I would work on plays, musicals, things of that nature, performance art, more experimental projects as I got more accustomed to that. And that was all during my education. I would work on media servers and different types of ways of bringing digital media into theater spaces and trying to make that experience kind of lift off the ground a little bit more visually. And that was a very exciting side of my work. As part of that, I worked on stage robotics. I worked on tracked projections. I worked on various types of control systems and automation systems. I worked on the Black Tracks product, which is from Cast up in Canada. And that was all sort of my pre-pandemic chapter. So if you knew me before COVID, you would think of me probably when you're thinking about, stage design and digital media and things of that nature. Since the pandemic, things took a big shift for me when we were migrating performance art from the stage to the screen. And that was a big transitional moment for me because I was taking a lot of the skills that I had tried to build up in working in theater, and now I was applying that to all sorts of different things, right? So, doing production for the local church and the school up the street, right? And trying to make sure that they could stay connected to their people during the pandemic. And that led to the use of my background in software to try to come up with tools that can make that easier to take place. So I started building my applications to solve my own problems, just to try to make it feasible to do the kind of things that we needed during the pandemic to stay connected to each other. And the fascinating thing is that it turned out that other people had those same problems, and that was kind of the magic of this, was that people could use these tools for their own events. And so after we started Liminal, when we were really just doing kind of production company style services for our customers, we found out the software tools that we were making to support our own events were helpful to other people. And that's where Liminal really took a turn into the software world. And I was really focused at that point on building applications that made it possible to do this kind of production on Zoom. And then my most recent chapter, as I said, is that we joined forces with Zoom in end of 2021, and now I'm focused on, I'd say, a broader collection of things that certainly include events and broadcast and contribution to air, but actually look at Zoom as a technology and all the different applications of that technology. So we worked with a lot of third-party developers recently. That's been a big part of my job, is talking to different people like the Mimo Live team that we're using tonight to get Zoom integrated into those products. But we've also looked at things like our workplace redesign that we had earlier this year, where we introduced things like the multi-speaker view and how some of the technology can be applied into that. We've done a lot of work, like I said, on the entire developer ecosystem beyond just the applications that we specifically make, but the technology that goes into them. And we've kept doing the work that we're doing with Liminal. So at the same time, we have new apps like Tiles and Zoom Cuts that we've introduced since joining Zoom that I think have really pushed the industry forward, and specifically for what you can do with Zoom and what you can imagine doing with Zoom. So for me, it's been a very interesting journey. It feels like I've been all over the place, but as I look back at it, there seems to be some sort of design to this all. So it's been interesting for sure.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that I work with, I was going to say a small church, but I've been chastised to say not say small church. So I'm going to say I've been working with a church in Macon, Georgia since the beginning of the pandemic, and we have been using Zoom, and we have had great success with it. And Zoom has never let us down. And so I want to say thank you to that, because it's a small community of people. and we are able to utilize Zoom for our Sunday service as well as our Thursday night Bible study. So we are very thankful for the Zoom team for their efforts, and I think I mentioned to you earlier that we are looking to build a building, and we are in the process of doing that, and we will be using Zoom for our outreach and continue to broadcast our services that way. So I just wanted to share that with you.
That's awesome. It's such
Uh,
a cool use case, being able to reach people who can't be there in person but can get the message remotely and participate, right, actively from anywhere in the world. I think that's really a remarkable thing to be able to do.
and what's so funny is that this community of people, small group of people, have had people who have come and visited the worship services from all over the country and all over the world. We've had different people from other countries as well participate in our services. And most recently, we have started using breakout rooms for group Bible challenges and the whiteboard. And so we are maximizing our use of Zoom. So I,
That is
I,
so
I
cool.
yes. And so thank you so much for
Oh, of
that.
course. That's a really amazing use case.
Our next question is from Clark Lopez Waterman of Frankfurt, Germany. And his question is, in regards to video communications, where were we 5 years ago and where will we be in 5 years?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I think, specifically looking at it in the context of broadcast, I think the big architectural change has been previously you would do one-on-one calls with the studio. So each person would get on an individual meeting, shall we say, and then you'd screen scrape those individual feeds, and you would then bring them into your broadcast. And in your center where you're doing the production, you would create a customized return for each one of those, so that person in meeting A could hear the person in meeting B. Required a lot of infrastructure, required a lot of computers, a lot of setup and knowledge to be able to make a high quality remote contribution experience possible. And I think the big change that we've seen in the past several years is the move from one to one screen scraping to multi party caller solutions like the one we're using tonight, where Tony and I are on the same meeting. And the idea that we could be in the same place having a low latency interaction with each other, but still get the high quality media that we need to have a customized design, right? That helps us tell the story of the broadcast. That I think is a really big change. And that's been a very exciting problem to work on, because I think when you get the latency down for the people in the conversation, it feels more natural. It feels like we're there together in a room and actually having a back and forth conversation. When there's so much infrastructure in the middle, it can feel kind of artificial, maybe. And then I think you get a worse quality conversation out of that experience. But when you can actually bring that down, and the technology can be there to amplify the message versus being something that everybody has to squeeze into in order to make that experience possible, I think we actually have better conversations. So that's been the exciting moment that we're in now. And I think if we look 5 years into the future, I think that's what we're going to continue to see, is that the experience will be more and more authentic, for us to be able to participate with each other. And I think we'll find that a lot of the barriers that we have, either socially, culturally, technologically, will begin to erode, and we'll have more empathetic communication with each other because it will feel more personal. And yet we'll be able to do that at a global scale. So I'm really excited about interaction at a scale where we have people from all over the world engaging with each other and feeling like it's a natural part of the way that we work with each other. That's what is a part of Zoom's mission that really excites me. And I think that's the direction that we're heading in right now. And I view it as kind of my job to try to make the tools possible to get us to that point, so that people like you, Tony, or others in our community can leverage those tools to make those exciting outcomes.
Thank you, sir. We have a question from Mr. Taylor Sunderhouse of Cincinnati, Ohio. Andy, has a customer used Zoom and liminal tools in an unusual way? Did it usual way surprise you? Customers do creative things at times.
Oh, I would say, yeah, maybe with more frequency than you would realize. It is amazing to see what people do. That's honestly, Tony, that's the most exciting part of the job. Is, I feel like I'm here making tools, but the most rewarding part of it is seeing what people do with it, because it's always surprising. I think that's the thing, is that, when you design a product, you have a certain maybe expectation of how it will be used based on your own perspective on it, right? Your own perspective on the problem you're trying to solve. But when you put it in somebody else's hands, they have a completely different view of it. So I think one of the things that I enjoyed most is going back to my roots in theater, watching people make different types of performance art with Zoom is always exciting to me. I mean, you look at what Todd Reynolds and Trevor New and everybody who's kind of in that space. My old friend Eamon Farrell is doing with bringing in remote guests to do something creative, right? Something that doesn't feel like a teleconferencing call, but actually has a quality and a substance to it that bends the medium a little bit and creates something interesting out of it. So I see this actually fairly often now, which is one of the great privileges of being in the position that I'm in, is that I get to see what people are doing with the applications. And I would say that there is so much creative use. I think one that always sticks with me is somebody who was using Zoom OSC specifically to be able to do a pottery class where they had foot pedals in front of them, and
Wow.
they would moderate the Zoom meeting with foot pedals while their hands were forming the clay, as sort of a way of being able to manage the meeting without having to use a keyboard and mouse. And then from there, I think we saw more people use it for accessibility purposes and other types of remote control. And I found that very inspiring because I never even conceived that such a thing would be possible. So I'm always amazed with what people do with the applications, and that I think is the joy of working on something that's so visual. Like, you can really see what somebody does with these types of apps, and the outcome is very easy to appreciate the kind of visual quality of it. So that has been, I think, a real delight in working at Zoom.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Andy. And we have a question from James, and James Fulson, I'm going to say. And forgive me, James. I've never I've never said his last name as many times as we have interacted. So his question is, he's from Minnesota. His question is, do you feel less experimental being in the corporate structure, or possibly you feel more experimental?
Oh, that's interesting. So the way I read it is, when I was working in the arts, right, there was a certain expectation of uh, creativity, thinking outside the box, trying to do something different, right, or taking a new approach to things. And I think in corporate, right, there's a structure, right, and the structure allows it to scale and be productive at a significant size. I have viewed my mission at Zoom, and this has been a personal goal of mine, to try to maintain a lot of the attitudes, means of thinking, or perspective that I got from my training in the world of the theater to my work at Zoom. So I really do believe that taking a creative approach to problem solving uh, is part of that experimental ideal that can make corporate structures work really, really well, actually. So we've set up, my team is the innovation team at Zoom. Client innovation is what our group is called, and we're really focused on trying to look at industry trends, where technology is going, what are the current needs, and how can we help achieve them with things that are brand new or coming down the line or more experimental. So I view our kind of strategy to continuing to be experimental in a corporate structure as looking at where the industry is going and trying to be ready and help Zoom be prepared for those kind of future industry trends at a technological level. So for me, that means using a lot of the latest frameworks and doing a lot of research and a lot of reading and trying to understand, what different companies are doing, what are the challenges, having the walk with the customer to really understand, how they're doing things and where the pain points are, and then trying things out with them. The thing that I think has been really cool about continuing to have liminal at Zoom has been the relationship that we've been able to maintain with our customers. We can put something out in a beta, let's say, and be able to get really interesting feedback from customers that crafts the way that we build the product in the future. I think that's been really very true with how we've done Zoom cuts. I think that's been true with developments on Zoom ISO. That's really driven by customer feedback, and they've been super gracious in that process by telling us what they think, right, and trying things out and being willing to be part of the journey and along for the ride with us. And that, I think, is how I've tried to continue playing with new ideas, with the goal at the end of that process to be to come away with key takeaways that actually impact the infrastructure of how we build things, at corporate scale, right? And that I think it's the main challenge, but it's also the main opportunity, and it's one of the things that excites me and challenges me most at Zoom is how we keep that spirit going.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for that answer. And we have Clark Lopez Waterman, and he has moved from Frankfurt, Germany to Allentown, Pennsylvania. And his question is, one of the least talked about Zoom integrations is IzzyCast. Can you talk about that and its potential for artists?
Yeah. First of all, I love playing the game Where in the World is Tlaloc? I feel like every time I talk to the guy, he's somewhere completely different. So here's to Allentown, here's to Tlaloc. But yeah, so IzzyCast is really interesting to me. So it's taken a different approach than some of the other integrations that you might be familiar with that use our meeting SDK technology. In other words, the ability to build a customized Zoom client that dials into a meeting, pulls out the individual feeds, and lets you work with them in the software. What Trickotronics has done with IzzyCast is they've basically networked all of their Isadora media servers together. So you could have a performer in one part of the world and an artist in another part of the world, and they can actually be working together while being completely remote. And they can do that in the medium that they're actually working in. So, for example, you could have a dancer in Amsterdam wearing like a motion tracking suit, sending all the data for how their body is shaped at any moment, and they could send that to a projector in Montreal where it's visualized in front of an audience that's sitting in a theater, while at the same time having a musician from somewhere else in the world, piped in and projected right next to them. So it can do all sorts of really amazing work by letting you manipulate the audio, the video, and the data through Zoom as sort of a protocol. So, they've just come out with Isadora 4. So this has only been really a couple of weeks that people have had to play with it in the kind of the public space. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what people are going to do with this, because IzzyCast is the kind of thing that, as an artist growing up, I wish I had at my disposal. Right, I wish I had the ability to work with the right person anywhere in the world, wherever they were located. Versus having to only have access to the people in my immediate vicinity. Right. And I think there's something really special that we saw during the pandemic when artists were working with each other across continents, across countries, right? Geographically dispersed, yet present and having a certain intimacy with each other in the moment. I think that was very interesting. So now we're going to see, when we can work at the media server level, we can work at the product level to create something and craft something together, what it's like for artists to not feel like they have to completely change their process in order to be able to work with each other, but can work with the tools they're already using in the ways that they're already comfortable with, but do it together anywhere in the world. And I think that's the promise of IzzyCast. That's what it offers to media designers. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the first performances that come out based on Isadora 4 and all the things that IzzyCast has going into it. So I think it's a huge opportunity.
It sounds fantastic. Is there a way to get the word out so that more artists may utilize this?
Yeah, well, like I said, so Isadora, the Trickotronics team just put out Isadora 4, I think a couple of weeks ago. They're just starting to do, I think, the kind of the press about it right now for people who already have it. And I think, I think Mark is probably going to come on office hours at some point in the near future, and we can push that message out there to help people get the memo. Elle from Trickotronics has been doing labs with the office hours team, and I'm sure that's a great opportunity to learn more about it, and spreading the word about the types of things that you can do. But I think that the thing that will make the biggest difference is the first performance that does it, right? It will spread like wildfire. This is what I saw during the pandemic when we worked on a production at Bard College of Carol Churchill's Mad Forest with Ashley Tata directing up at Bard. And, it was the first use of Zoom OSC, right? And so once that performance got out, word about how it was done, and other artists wanting to do similar types of things, it spread through the community. It's a really well-connected group of people in theater. Everybody seems to know everybody else somehow, and I think the
Okay,
word will spread once we see that first show that really blows people's minds with what you can do.
that's fantastic. We have a question from Jerry Gitchell of Florida. And it has been some time since we told the tale of two Andrews back in May 2021. I continue to produce hybrid Zoom events. Question: What's the current state of managing cybersecurity within Zoom?
Yeah, so that's certainly come a long way, and it's crazy to think that how many things have happened in just the past few years. And I'm really excited to hear that you're continuing to produce hybrid events on the Zoom platform. That's really cool. In terms of security, I think Zoom has published a lot of insights into how you can better manage your meetings. I think the best thing that you can do is leverage the three big features, right, for security, which is going to be your waiting room, your passcode, and of course the authentication, whether you have authenticated users joining. So you can use those features together to kind of control who's coming into your meetings, let's say, and you have control over that sliding scale of whether you're going to make it easier for people to join via, having the waiting room come up but no passcode or no meeting registration required, or maybe you turn up the dial, right, and you're going to have a lot of requirements in order for somebody to join to increase the likelihood that the people who are joining are the people that you intended, right? There's also been a lot of work on the technical side. I think we just put out maybe a month or so ago an article about our post quantum end to end encryption that Zoom now has available, which is this kind of bleeding edge technology for a world where quantum computers exist that can brute force through data. How do we make sure that meetings are secured well into the future, right? With these security settings. So there's been a lot of technical innovation, but I also think there's been a lot of best practices that have kind of come out of the past several years about how to use Zoom effectively, right? How to make the features that you need more visible. I think all of that has come a long way.
And I just want to let the audience know, those that are watching on YouTube and those who are using Mukana, you have a limited time with Mr. Andy Carluccio this evening. Put your question in and vote it up so that we can get your question in. We may not have time to answer all of the questions, so it's important that you come into Mukana, vote your question up. So I just wanted to say that. Okay, our next question. We have Mr. Mike Edwards of Brooklyn, New York. Hey, Andy, what products, ideas, topics, area in the virtual production space are you most interested in exploring within the near future?
So I would say I'm really enthusiastic about our new Tiles app that we just put out this summer. And Tiles is designed to be this suite where you can control the way that your audience looks at your event. So you can round the corners, control the aspect ratio, set the colors, set a background image, and really kind of customize the way that everything looks and feels. And this has been a kind of a return to form on the visual side of Zoom and how to make that experience really customized for your brand and what it is you're trying to communicate. And I think there's a lot of interesting things that we can do with tiles. So many, in fact, that it feels like we're constantly trying to just, pick among many great options for what we could do next. So I think that there's a lot of interesting things that are happening there. I think there's a lot of interesting things that we can do with graphics as well and data driven graphics. And we've seen some of our SDK integrations from third party developers explore some of those concepts. But I'm really interested, I think, in trying to make these interactions feel really personal and really branded to the conversation that's taking place. Because I think that, production value is kind of a force multiplier to the message that you're trying to make, right? When you invest in, a quality experience for your audience, I think it underscores whatever the message is that you're trying to communicate. And conversely, when you don't put value into how something looks and feels, I think that the audience detects that, and maybe they feel that the content of what you're communicating is less important because the production value isn't there, right? So everything that we can do to try to turn up those knobs on production quality and control and making everything feel like it's intentional and well put together and aligns with the vision for the event, I think it not only makes it a pleasurable experience to view, but actually underscores the messaging that our customers are trying to communicate. So I think with Tiles, there's a real opportunity there, and I'm excited to continue to work on that app, especially, and see what we can do to make some interesting new experiences with it.
Can you describe what tile is for those who are not in video production?
Sure. So, we have kind of an innovation laboratory at Zoom called Liminal, and Liminal is where we publish a lot of different applications, mostly in the event space. that are designed to make it easier to produce, whether that's a hybrid experience, virtual experience, or something even customized on an integration side with the Zoom platform. So the purpose of tiles is to be able to take your audience in Zoom, maybe like your gallery grid, and make it something that looks maybe more nuanced or more customized than the grid of tiles on a black background that you would get in a standard Zoom meeting out of the box, right? So controlling the width of the rectangles, controlling whether the borders have a different color, setting a picture on the background, having different animations. Maybe a tile flips over when somebody turns off their video and somebody else replaces them, right? So giving you kind of a full design suite to control and customize the gallery view is kind of in the purview of what this tiles project is all about. And like right now it's in beta on our website, and so we're collecting customer feedback. Like I said before, we really value that relationship. People out in the field who are doing things with it are influencing where we're going with the application right now. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see. And again, I like it a lot because it's such a visual product that it's easy to appreciate when you've done something right with it.
It sounds like something that my church uh, parishioners might be interested in doing. So I hope they're listening tonight. We might want to look at tile for our worship services.
I think there's a lot of cool things you
And
can do with it. Yeah.
yes, Jerry is back from Florida, and Jerry says, do you see the future of real-time audio language translation for Zoom?
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. So there are some things that you can do today, and some things that we've shown for somebody speaking one language to be able to communicate with somebody who speaks a different language in the same meeting. And I think we can all understand how powerful that is when that comes to fruition, right? So today we have translated captioning. So I remember back to, I want to say it was last year in the spring at the Pro Light and Sound conference in Frankfurt, Germany. And what we did is we had one panelist who was remote, who was speaking a different language than the host who was on site at the booth. And so we had two screens up. We had one screen that was the remote guest, and then right next to them, we had the automatic translated captions so that he could speak in one language and then read the captions on the other side and be able to respond in his native language and have it automatically translated back the other direction so that they could have a conversation. I use this feature a lot at work to be able to communicate with people who don't, who for whom English isn't their first language. So that's really interesting, and I think that we are now getting to a point where we can have communications in our native language that allow us to have frictionless communication with other people in the world who maybe don't speak our language. And I think we're seeing a lot of that innovation with captions right now. And I'm so excited for where that technology could go in the near future, because I think it breaks down so many barriers. Once you can really get to appreciate the substance of what somebody is saying, when they're not limited by what they know of the shared common language between the two people, I think that opens up a lot of really interesting collaborative opportunities for everyone.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you, Jerry, for your question. And we have a question, it looks like from the Conversation with Tony Mobley ringer. And I'm going to call him Dr. Chris Clark. And he says, office hours and Alex Lindsay have been important to Tony and to Andy in different ways. Please talk about one or two ways that office hours has been important and generative to each of you. So I'll let you go first.
Sounds good. Um, Dr. Clark always has really insightful questions, and I actually think that he is part of my answer. So I'm going to put it that way. I really value the community that Alex has cultivated in office hours for many reasons, and one of which is that I think that it has been an answer to having people who share a passion about media, that come from all different walks of life and all different experience levels, be able to share with each other and teach each other. And I think that there are so many industries where knowledge is held kind of close to the chest, and not shared out of competitive mindset. I think Alex has really broken that down into a place where everybody is equally able to ask each other questions and learn from each other. I think that has created a real incubator for folks like myself who want to enter into that equation and be able to propose new ideas or new ways of working and get experience from all sorts of different people who are doing things in all sorts of different ways, but have that common interest and a common set of guidelines by which to have a conversation. So I really appreciate Alex for that. I also appreciate his willingness to push the outer edge, right, of what's possible and to be out there challenging the community to produce higher quality work, but also challenging the vendors, right, to do better and to build tools that allow them to do things that are inconceivable right now, but in 2 or 3 years from now could be commonplace, right, in the way that we produce events. So I appreciate his vision, and I appreciate the community he's brought together to help cultivate that vision, and how accessible it is for people to be able to get in and participate. How about you, Tony?
I'm gonna say ditto to everything that you just said. I'm just gonna add his mantra, a global conversation where no one's left behind. Became a part of office hours because I was trying to help a small church, and I'll get tapped on for that, but a small church who at the beginning of the pandemic were not able to meet in person. And so Zoom became the answer, but it was a trial and error. We had gone through several different platforms before we got to Zoom. And so when we got to Zoom, I was able to become a part of office hours community, and I was able to ask all kinds of questions. There was no question that was frowned upon or looked down upon. The questions that I needed to ask the community to help me with this church, they were available to me, and they were more than willing to allow me to get answers to those questions that we needed. Conversation with Tony Mobley is an outgrowth of me trying to share the things that I learned in office hours with someone else. And I was actually trying to help a public official improve his social media and video presence. And I went and asked people in the community to help me help him. And he decided that he wanted to go in the traditional way of uh, campaigning. And so I had pulled all these people together to try to help this individual. And one of the people, there was a lot of people, Chris Fenwick, Mr. Ken Jordan of the UK. A lot of them said, well, Tony, you need to do a show. You need to have a presence. And so out of that became Conversation with Tony Mobley. And I got so much support and so much encouragement. So many people wanted to see Conversation with Tony Mobley succeed. And so we have succeeded. And not only is the church that I'm working with having a global outreach, even though they're a small church in Macon, Georgia, they have had people from all over the world participate in their worship services, not to mention all over the United States. So that's a big deal. And also, I have had conversation with Tony Mobley with people all over the world. We have people who are supporting us in the back end that are all over the United States and all over the world. And so it is a fantastic opportunity. I'm so thankful to Alex Lindsay and the Office Hours community for their continued support. And I'll just add that this is our first conversation with Tony Mobley in 2024. I was ill, and I shared with everyone in the pre-show that this was my first day walking all around my house since January 2nd. So I was able to walk all over my house for the first time since January 2nd. So it's a big deal for me, and I'm very happy to share that with you. And I continue to improve and get better every day. And so thank you, Dr. Clark, for that. As Andy said, that thought-provoking question, and I appreciate you. And I said, that is the Conversation with Tony Mobley ringer. So he's going to always have some great, great questions for us on Conversations with Tony Mobley. Thank you, Dr. Clark. Okay. And our next question is Jerry says, thank you for your answer. Okay. Our next question is with the new Zoom innovative products that are now available, what are the must haves for video production producers?
It's a great question. I think that the tool set has evolved so much over the past several years that it's often easy to kind of get disoriented and figure out, okay, what is the best way to do something today? So I'll try to give some preliminary guidance with the understanding that everybody's needs are a little different. The best thing is always going to be the thing that's customized and works for you. But I'll give you some blanket guidelines. So um, one of the big changes that has taken place over the past couple of years, like we talked about before, is the move from screen scraping to getting the individual video and audio feeds directly into your production tool. So the old form of doing this was, like I said, a laptop for every presenter, and some tool like a capture card or NDI scan converter or something like that to pull it all into the mixer and put the show together. Now that had some limitations, like it would show user interface elements of Zoom, right? Like Zoom is a software product that's designed to be operated, right? So it would have different icons and overlays and things like that. It wouldn't necessarily be a clean feed. And since Zoom ISO came on the market, we've now had the ability to get the individual video and audio feeds so that you can kind of break a Zoom call down into the individual pieces and then put it back together in a branded and customized way like we're doing tonight. And it's not just limited to Zoom ISO anymore, though. That's been the second kind of big shift that's taken place over the past couple of years, is that the core technology that we used to build Zoom ISO, we've now made available in many different products, right? So like we're using Mimo Live tonight, but it's also true in vMix and Ecamm Live and Wirecast. New Blue Captivate has an integration as well. Cinemaker has the ability to pull in the individual feeds and do it and composite it in a different way. And there's many more even that I'm omitting at the moment. And what's nice about this is that each developer has taken the approach to integrating Zoom that makes sense for their product, right? So you don't have to kind of change your workflow if you're already used to using these tools. Adding Zoom is as easy as adding another webcam source or something like that you would do in the software. So it feels very natural. It's very kind of directly part of the workflow. And I think what's nice about all of this is that, again, it lets you kind of drive the customization component of your event to make it feel very much like it's in line with the goals and ideas that you have for the message you want to communicate. And again, I think that the number one takeaway is that in 2024 there aren't many reasons to screen scrape anymore. You really have the ability to get things in a more ergonomic and production friendly way to be able to make something customized and powerful. Now, there's also a lot of tools that are on the high end side, right? So if you're doing big activations with LED walls, right? We talked about tiles before. What you can do with that, we also have our integration with Unreal Engine, which is super powerful for being able to do complex 3D work with Zoom. Different types of cinematic work is really interesting to see Zoom integrated into that space. So and then don't sleep on what is also happening in the Zoom Events platform, right? So we got our production studio tools there, super easy to use, super easy to set up and get started. We have our streaming app integration that lets you stream to multiple platforms directly from within Zoom. So kind of wherever you are along the spectrum of production and technical complexity, Zoom has something for you to help you, do your best work on our platform. So keep an eye out for all of those things.
Thank you, Andy. The next question is, how did you turn your love of technology into a business?
Yeah, so there wasn't any sort of master plan, to be honest, Tony. I just kept following the thing that I loved and the thing that I was passionate about, and it happened to turn into a business some way along that journey, right? So for me, I've been chasing, something that I really love, which is being able to work with people and produce something that looks, like the way it is in my head, right? And to be able to imagine something and then be able to share that with somebody else, because that's really what communication is all about, right? You have an idea and you want to get that idea into my head, but it's in your head, so we're going to have some way of communicating that to each other. And language is one way to do that, but the visual arts are another way to communicate. And what's interesting about visual arts is that I think it allows you to communicate with people at an empathetic level. So some idea that you have, maybe it's a feeling, right? Maybe the way some environment makes you feel when you look at it, that you might be able to impart that experience on me, and I actually could feel the same way you feel about something by some sort of shared visual experience. That's what got me so excited about the arts. So when the pandemic happened, and we weren't able to co-locate in the same location, how could we achieve that same kind of outcome working remotely? And that's where, Zoom OSC and Zoom ISO and Liminal and all that stuff started to come into fruition. And I got to enjoy working with other artists, directors, people who had a vision for what they wanted to communicate, and try to help empower them to do that. Because while it's fun to do that for myself, right, and to be able to put something out there into the world, I actually get a lot more fulfillment out of building tools that help other people do that. And then I feel like I'm a little part of all the work that those people are doing. So for me, it's been a matter of following that journey, and technology has been the brush, right, that I've been using to do this experience. Technology has allowed me, from software development background, to be able to build these things and make it happen. But it's just my medium of choice, right? Somebody might be a painter, somebody might be a musician. I like to use coding, software development, to be able to communicate these types of ideas and build in a way that other people can use the same thing, right? So for me, I've really enjoyed looking at uh, that that outcome, right, that other people can achieve. And it just so happened to lead me through a business, right? So I started Liminal as a company simply because I felt that doing production, we should have an LLC, a limited liability company, to kind of protect us and to set that up. But I didn't do it out of like some desire to start a business. And then it scaled up and grew into something simply because we were chasing the same outcome. So it was never the goal, but it was on the path of this journey. I didn't set out, from that day on March 13th of 2020, when I first started working on Zoom OSC, to end up at Zoom and working on all this kind of thing. I could never have conceived of that as a possibility. But I've been fulfilled along that entire journey just because I've been trying to do the things that I really love and enjoy. And that's what I admire about you too, Tony. I mean, I think about you and your journey and what you've been doing, and I see a man on a mission, trying to make something happen for himself and learning and sharing that learning with others. And I think we have a appreciation um, for that journey in common among the two of us. So that's one of the things I really
I
appreciate about you.
thank you so much for that. And I agree. And I'm also very thankful for the theater, for your love of the theater. Um, thank you so much. Our next question is, please talk about your relationship with office hours and the Zoom test kitchen.
Yeah, so I first came on office hours because I was looking at, when people would download our software in 2020, they could fill out a questionnaire. And one of the questions was, how did you hear about us? And people would write office hours. Now, if you don't know anything about office hours and you just see the word office hours, you might be a little confused about what that actually means, right? And where to go. And but there were so many people on the same day who submitted that download form and said office hours as the reason that they found the Zoom OSC download page, that I just had to figure it out. I was so interested. So I did a lot of Googling. I would add words to like office hours, like video production, office hours, Zoom, right? Stuff like that. And eventually I found an article that Guy Cochran had posted talking about his experience of being on office hours. And I was able to follow the breadcrumbs and find my way to Mukana, and eventually find my way into the Discord and the Zoom meeting. And I was really amazed to see the group of people that were there and what they were trying to do and work on. And it was very humbling to be able to try to, enter that conversation from the outside. And everybody was so welcoming, and it was a really great experience. Now, from that, I met Jeff Widgren, who was working on this question of how to use Zoom better, right? And he had the idea of like, let's get together and actually not just like read the manual and try to figure it out. Let's actually do these things and create a meeting where we get together and try to figure it out. And I really enjoyed working with Jeff on Zoom Test Kitchen. We also started a Zoom OSC Test Kitchen when we were starting to look at some of those features, and Liminal was kind of sponsoring and supporting that. And I've always enjoyed seeing the diverse community of users of Zoom get together now every Friday with David Paskin, who's done an amazing job kind of carrying the torch forward and making that resource continue to be available and valuable to people who are using it. It's really special because you'll see people who are, IT admins working at Zoom for their large organization, people who are managing Zoom for their church, people who are using Zoom for live streaming, people who are using Zoom for education purposes, and people who are just trying to, get together and call their friend and have a more, intimate experience over the platform. So it's an amazing cross section. Just like office hours is a great cross section of the video production industry, Zoom Test Kitchen brings together so many amazing people who are using Zoom in different ways, and it's so valuable for me to get to learn from them. What their feedback is, what their journey and exploration is, and I always enjoy going on both shows, talking about the latest work that we've done with Zoom, and seeing what the reaction is to that. It's really fulfilling to put that out into the world and see the response that comes back from it, from all sorts of different use cases and all different perspectives. So it's been a really amazing journey with both communities.
And I'm happy to say that I am a supporter of both office hours and Zoom Test Kitchen. The next question is, I know Zootopia is a ways off, but is there anything you would like to share with us tonight?
Yeah, so Zoomtopia is taking up a lot of my brain right now as we're getting close to it. I think we just opened up registration, so you can sign up to join Zoomtopia virtually on our website. So you can definitely check that out and sign up for it. One of the things I love about Zoomtopia is that not only is it a great opportunity to speak about Zoom as a business, what are our goals, what are the new things that we've done, tying together the different narrative threads of what we've been working on together to kind of give guidance for the year about what we're doing with Zoom as a product, as a platform, and as a technology for people to communicate with. But the other thing that's fun about it is because it's our biggest event of the year, we get to update our production guidance as well and push ourselves to do things that we haven't seen before. And so last year's Zoomtopia, we rolled out the Zoom toolkit for Unreal Engine and, took our first crack at bringing in remote guests into a 3D environment and doing, cinematic camera motion with an LED wall. That was really, really interesting for us. We also debuted the alpha version of Tiles at Zoomtopia, where we had remote audience members in our breakout stages. We had customized graphics tools that we were using. So it's really a flagship opportunity for us on the production side of the house to really push ourselves to build new tools, to answer our own questions, and to experiment on our own event. And then the best part of that is on the other end of it, the same tools that we're using to produce this, we make available to everybody so they can do the same kind of thing for their events. So I think, the same is true as we look at Zoomtopia this year. It's obviously a kind of a hallmark moment for Zoom every year. It's the flagship event that we do. But it also is a great opportunity for us to update our guidance on how to produce events on Zoom and for us to be able to push ourselves to do the best that we can to make a compelling experience for our audience and then teach you how to do the same thing for your audience. So I'm really looking forward to it. I hope everybody attends and it appreciates it both for the content about what Zoom is doing on the products, but also for the production value and how it comes together and anything that you can take away and learn from it. Because we're experimenting and we want to have everybody involved in that process. And some things we'll do right, some things we'll need to do better. But hey, we're doing it. We're out there making it happen in the public eye, and that's really exciting for me.
And I just want to let everyone know that you can register for Zootopia right now. It's available to register for. So that is available now. Zachary Sorensen, who is also working on the back end of Conversation with Tony Mobley, who is in Australia, has a question. What is the next? What is next for everyday people in Zoom?
Yeah, I think let's if we rewind a bit and we look at our journey this year, we introduced Zoom Workplace, which ties together things beyond meetings into the Zoom experience. And there are so many interesting components to communication outside of just having a video call, right? You look at something like Clips that allows you to have a video that you can send somebody, a self tape, right? That you just want to send a message asynchronously and be able to send that to somebody else and they can view that and watch that. You look at Notes and Docs, which we just released Zoom Docs, which allows us to maybe get together on a Zoom call and co-edit an actual document that we can then have available to us as a kind of a post meeting artifact. We talked about amazing upgrades with Whiteboard, and certainly there's been a lot of work done with Zoom Events as well. But the backbone, the kind of through line through all of this, has been Zoom's AI companion. So, AI, I think, obviously has been a major theme for all of technology over the past couple of years, especially. But Zoom's approach has been how to make you more productive with our AI companion, which we include at no additional cost, right? So, I think meeting summarization is a very obvious use case. We get together, we have a conversation, we walk away from that conversation with, a summary of what we discussed, action items for specific people. There's certainly lots of merit in that. And there's all sorts of different use cases for AI Companion. I think you're going to continue to see amazing things that we'll do with Workplace, with AI Companion, with our events products and platform that impact everybody, because your journey through this can be so diverse, right? Whether you're just, having a meeting with people and trying to make that experience better, or whether you're an audience member at an event, you're still impacted by the work that we're doing and the production tools for the event as an audience member as well. So I think the everyday person, there's the expression that the rising tide moves all ships, right? So whatever your use cases of Zoom, the investment that we're making into all of these technologies impacts you either as a user of the technology, as an observer of what's going on. There are so many different ways that these technologies can benefit you.
Thank you so much for that. Next question is on a personal note, what is it like moving from one coast to the other? And also, there was a significant event that took place after you moved. So, can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So I'd say on the first question about moving, I was ready to embark on that next chapter. We had just started working at Zoom, and I wanted to, kind of venture out and define kind of what I wanted in my own life and how to kind of set that up for myself. I wanted to be close to the technology, close to the people that were part of my life and in my professional world. And I really was kind of inspired by San Francisco. I wanted to live out here. Been a long time goal of mine. And I think that it was one of the things I like about San Francisco is just the freedom of individuals that are out here and how everybody is free to be themselves, and I think it's very authentic. It's something that people really enjoy about the city. There's so much diversity. The art scene is incredible out here, and also it's just a beautiful environment. Like the Bay is absolutely stunning. There's so many amazing things about California. You can drive 30 45 minutes in any direction, have a completely different climate. So I'll leave work in San Jose and it'll be 85 degrees, and I'll get back home in San Francisco and it'll be 65. And suddenly it's not that far. It was not that far of a drive. So all the microclimates, I really enjoy that. But in my personal life, I got married a little over a year ago to my lovely wife Katie, and she is absolutely incredible. She's an editor, and so I really view a lot of her job as bringing the best out of people, and she's really, really good at that. So, if you're writing something, you're just trying to figure out the way to express it or the way to get your idea together. She's so good at being able to just like dig in to the fundamentals and empower people to be able to communicate really well. She works on scientific publications right now, which is amazing. The kind of material that she's working on and the people she's working with, and I just have so much admiration for what she's doing. But she's been a great supporter of mine for many years personally behind the scenes. She's the one who came up with the name Liminal. Give her credit, where credit is due. I told her, I need to start this company. I need to put a name on the line. Here are some of the ideas I'm thinking of for what I want it to be called. And she's like, oh, you should call it Liminal because that kind of speaks to what you're doing. So, she's always been there supporting me, making things happen behind the scenes that make it possible for me to do my best work, just like she does for so many other people every single day, helping them communicate better and do their best work. She's been there supporting me. So it's been really great. And we moving into our home together out here in San Francisco has been amazing, and it's been a big step for us, right, to step outside of our comfort zone and try something new. But the fact that she's here doing it with me makes it possible. So that's been really amazing.
And I just want to say thank you, Katie, for allowing him to be with us tonight. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Our next question is from Dr. Clark. Let's see. I can't quite read it, so I'm going to ask the people in the back end to help me.
Oh, I think I see it, Tony. I think he says under the "How did you get here" section, it says from Liberty White.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you see it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So going from, going from founder to being acquired is a big leap. What has your experience been like from a mental health and wellness perspective? What advice would you give to yourself pre acquisition to prepare?
Well, Liberty, when I figure it out, I'll let you know. I still, I'm still not sure I've really cracked this one, um, but I think there are a few things that stand out to me already on this path, and it's a journey that I'm still on. I really don't have this answer. I'm still discovering it myself, and I think I will continue to discover this for many years. But I think that the um, one of the one of the things I keep coming back to, kind of the watering well for me that keeps me energized during the day, is the mission, right? And being aligned with the purpose of what I'm doing. And I feel that one of the key things that we worked out when we were, setting this up to work with Zoom was making sure that care for our customers, that care for this journey and mission was maintained. And I think that has been, without that, this wouldn't be possible, right? But I feel like we're working on things that we really are passionate about, that we care about, that align our missions together. That's been really important. I also think that developing a muscle that allows you to step back a bit when you're so invested in something, right? It's a double-edged sword, right? Because I just said how important it is to be personally invested in the outcomes. At the same time, you got to be able to put it down at the end of the day and breathe, right? And be able to and have that separation. Um, because while you're investing a lot of yourself into it, if you don't continue to energize yourself and refuel yourself, it'll be hard for you to invest more into that thing that you care so much about, right? So for me, that's been kind of the mental framework, has been I need to take time for myself, and to collect myself and to reflect, in order to be able to be effective at the things that I'm passionate about. Even though that means in the moment stepping back a little bit and taking that moment to have perspective. So I try to practice, and this is something that our CEO Eric Yuan also talks about quite a bit: daily self-reflection. That could be at the beginning of your day. I like to do it at the end of my day when things are still fresh for me. Um, so reflect on, what did I do today? How did I feel during the day? I think is something that is also really interesting to try to chart out. Where was I, at an emotional high, at a low point, right? And then trying to like cross reference that to, what was I doing at that point, right? Why do I feel that way? And then looking ahead to the next day and saying, what lessons do I want to take from today and carry forward? And this doesn't have to be, a multi-hour long exercise. It can be done in maybe 10 minutes or so. But getting into the rhythm of doing that, I think this is something that, if you come from a spiritual background, is maybe, meditation and prayer part of that practice. I think can also apply, across the board, is taking that moment to have that reflection, and to really set yourself up and get yourself in the right headspace to check in and see how you're doing. Right. I think that's a really important practice, regardless of, where you're coming from in life.
Thank you so much for that. The last question is, you're speaking to the world. What do you want the world to know?
I want you to know that, in this moment today, where I'm at, that Zoom cares about you and wants to make, uh, the kind of things that you want to do possible, whatever that is, from whatever type of communication that means for you. That we're here trying to make it happen, and that we're listening, and that we're focused, and that we, or I should say, maybe that I feel most fulfilled when I get to see the amazing things that you can do, out there in the world. And I think that, um, coming at it with a spirit of generosity, and that will always pay back double, right? When what you put out into the world comes back to you doubled. So as you're thinking about these things that you want to do, and as Zoom is supporting you, on that journey in whatever ways that we can, knowing that what you can give to others will come back twice at you, has been a part of Zoom's culture, and I think will be part of your success as well. So I encourage you to think about those things as you're producing your events, as you're working at your local church, as you're doing what you're doing in your school, right? Is as you're learning these tools, and as Zoom is trying to help you, um, uh, achieve your outcomes. Uh, paying it forward with the next group, will help you and develop your own skills, and as it has helped Zoom, right? As we've put things out into the world and gotten things back from us, and it's made us better. I think it can help you as well. So I encourage everybody to, carry that spirit of generosity that Tony has exemplified, that Office Hours has exemplified, and carry that into your own day. I think it will, make the world a better place. And thanks to everybody, for everything you're doing. And thanks, Tony, again for having me back.
Thank you, Andy, for being with me today. Really appreciate it. We want to remind everyone you can watch Conversation with Tony Mobley on YouTube or my website, conversationwithtonymobley.com. Conversation with Tony Mobley is produced by valued audio visual professionals who meet daily in Office Hours Global, hosted by Alex Lindsay. We want to say thank you to Mimo Live and YouTube. Conversations with real people. Stay tuned for new episodes and great conversations on Conversation with Tony Mobley. We want to thank everyone for our 100+ episodes of Conversation with Tony Mobley. And when you look back, maybe now you can see an episode that really speaks to you. We hope that you will do that. I thank you for finding something that you like, and hopefully it is useful. We want to again thank Mr. Andy Carluccio for being a part of this great conversation today and doing the work and doing and being the person who you are. Thank you, Alex. Andy, I'm sorry. Thank you, Andy, for being with me. Conversation with Tony Mobley series will resume next week, and we're going to have Mr. Marcel Jordan, a technologist that wears many hats, and that show will be next Wednesday at August 28th, 2024, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we ask you to continue to come and watch our shows. We have video producers, musicians, educators, mental health experts, filmmakers, all sorts of creators on Conversation with Tony Mobley. We are very interested in having conversations with interesting people. So we ask that you like and subscribe. And we want to make a new goal this year. And we're going to ask you to really reach out and like and subscribe our U channel. And we want to make a new goal this year. I'm not going to say what the goal is, but we want people to like and subscribe to Conversations with Tony Mobley. And with that, we're going to say good night and God bless. Take care, everyone. And again, thank you, Mr. Andy Carluccio.
Thanks, Tony. Great to have you back.
I'm glad to be back. Thank you, sir.